Hello, I'm Toycat, and this is a deep ocean in Minecraft. Admittedly, it's from a perspective you're probably not used to, where for some reason the blocks just aren't loading in, but this is a great way to show what the depth of the ocean is in Minecraft, as you can see, down to these salmon over here that aren't very big, and then also you can see the depth of the world in general, where there are creepers going much lower down, there are skeletons over there. Basically, the deep oceans in Minecraft already only used about a third of the existing world height, but as of 1.17, where the world height and world depth is increasing, it makes sense that finally they can lower these oceans, they can make them much bigger, and there are so many other knock-on effects of the 1.17 height changes that I wanted to talk about in today's video regarding the Nether, the End, and everything in between, because this is truly the biggest change in 1.17 we've seen so far, and so I need to talk about it. So this is not the biggest change. And the reason I want to talk about this is because every update that has came out in the last 9 years since March of 2012, which is when they doubled the height limit from 128 to 256, has been working within the confines of a world that goes from layer 0 to layer 256. The ocean is at layer 63, and that means you only have 60 blocks of wiggle room to work with between the ocean and the bottom of the world. This means that if you want to have some caves below your ocean, which you kind of need to do, ocean can't go all the way down to bedrock, because that's not how bedrock works. This means the lowest oceans can effectively go is about layer 32, again taking up about half of the height between the ocean and the bottom of the world, but now they can revisit that sort of thing, and if they want to have 30 blocks of gap of buffer between the ocean and the bottom of the world, that means they don't just double the height of theoretical oceans, they could triple them even. We could have 90 block deep oceans, which sounds terrifying, and honestly it kind of is. You would need a water breathing potion to properly explore those sorts of things, which is a really exciting idea, especially if we're going to have glow squids for the ocean depths. You know, they've said it's really, really deep in the oceans, so that means that revisiting the updated aquatic to add some form of deep trench, a la the, the Marianas Trench, which in real life is 11,000 meters or 11,000 blocks deep. In Minecraft, obviously 11,000 blocks deep is a bit far, but imagine if we had a trench which didn't just go down to layer 31, as we can see right here, but went down to layer minus 31, to give you a feel for what that would look like. Here is a fun trench that we're gonna make right behind me, and as you can see, this will go down 60 extra blocks down to layer minus 32 as opposed to layer 32. You can see how from down here, assuming it doesn't hit a cave or something, there is still plenty of layers of cave and blocks between it and bedrock, but now we can have oceans that are this steep. Look at the height of this thing. I'm gonna start swimming up now, and you'll see when we hit the end of it just how far we've been. Oceans can get a lot deeper in this update because of that buffer they'll have between the bottom of the world and the space. I'm convinced this is one of the real benefits that they're going for. This is why they've referenced the glow squid spawning in the depths of the ocean, because they knew one of the ideas for the cave update was to increase the depth of the world, and now they've worked out a way to do it, assuming they don't change the height of the water, which is very unlikely. I mean, there is now 256 blocks above this, but there's also 128 blocks below, which is pretty interesting because that gives us a total height limit of 372 blocks here in the overworld. And you might be questioning as a result, in fact, everyone's first question was about the Nether, which is a fair question, but my question was about the End. I mean, we know the Nether has a bedrock ceiling, which they could play around with, of course. I mean, I've always thought it was very arbitrary that there is a 128 block layer ceiling here. In case you're curious, on Bedrock, on Java, sorry, you can place blocks here. On Bedrock, this is the actual world height of the Nether. You cannot go any higher. So obviously, I could see a world where if they don't want to, play around with that, in the same way we had Nether caves before that were kind of fun on the Bedrock layer, they could, if they don't want to remove that ceiling, they could lower the floor of the Nether. They haven't made any indication they're going to do this yet, so be warned, this is entirely just, I'm speculating off the top of my head that something they can do to reapproach the Nether update is they can make the Nether a much more vertical place. Right now, as you can see, I'm just going to really show you, we can go from layer 2, layer 1, layer 3, where the bedrock is, to layer 128, effectively giving the Nether a height of 128 blocks. But the interesting question to me was the End. And so in the snapshot 21W06A, where they have increased it for the first time, do you think they've increased the height limit or the depth limit of the End? And the answer is bizarrely enough, no. This leaves us in the very bizarre situation where the height limit for the Nether is 128 blocks. The layer between the bottom and the top of the world that you can functionally build in is 128. And again, it's actually 128 on Bedrock, so it's 128 blocks between the top and the bottom of the world in the Nether. Then the End has 256 blocks between the top and the bottom of the world, and then the overworld has 372. After this update, if they don't change anything, we would have 3 separate dimensions with 3 separate height limits, which sounds fun in theory, but it sounds like a way to distinguish them in theory, but in my opinion, it's not really so necessary. I mean, like, sure, also, by the way, it doesn't even tell you the floor of the End. It just won't let you place blocks here. And honestly, I can see why you're thinking to yourself, why would we ever need to lower the floor for the End? There's no good reason. Who's trying to place blocks this low down? It's hard, it's a lot of effort. No one's tried to do it, so what's the point if it adds to save file sizes? What's the point if it adds to complexity of this update? No one's going to want that. But I think the biggest reason they should lower the height limit of the world down to -64 for the End is because of the fact that, when you are playing survival, so let's quickly activate our Elytra. Here you can see we're flying. Oh, look, I've got my Minecon cape on. Just flexing that I went to a Minecon back when events existed. Yeah, anyway, with that said, if we go into survival mode real quick right here, you can see that I'm going to start taking damage when I go about below, I think it's -40 or so. So you can see I'm at -9. I'm flying around here just fine. But on Bedrock, first of all, you can't use fireworks, which is crazy. And second of all, we're going to get to about -40. Okay, so as you can see, as soon as we get to -64, what happens right now is there is this. Essentially, there's -64 on Java. But as soon as we get to -64, the world starts damaging us seriously, and we have to get the heck out of there. Personally, I think, like, if you can fly around, if that's where the death void for the world is, either they could move that down, which I think would be more fun, or at the very least, it would be fun to be able to build down there so you could mark that out in some way. It's very hard to get a feel for right now where the death level starts to occur, and I just find that to be very bizarre. And I also find it to be bizarre that we effectively do have 64 blocks of height below the End. It's just they're not usable for building. Like, it's a very strange thing in my opinion, and that's why, given that, it's been a very long time since we've seen the End updated, if they are to do an End update, I would imagine one of the first things they start to look into is using some weird vertical height. Imagine, for example, even if you noticed earlier, there's something really interesting that, like, all the way up here, at the height limit of 256, the End looks really cool, right? I mean, maybe I'm hyping it up too much, but I love this kind of look of, okay, let's land on, oh god. I forgot you can't cancel the Elytra on Java. You've just got to barrel into the ground, I guess. I don't want to hype this up too much, but, like, look at how interesting and exciting the world looks from up here. There's, like, an interesting thing. And we have End ships in the End Islands already that are kind of exciting to me because they're so high up. There's a lot of verticality in the End that we don't see in other biomes. I would love if they used the verticality, both of the existing height, 256 blocks as Minecraft will remind you, but imagine if we did even more by making the first truly three-dimensional area where there are things you can find up in the air next to nothing. It would give you, first of all, a reason to truly explore using the Elytra in a fun way, in my opinion, but also I feel like there's just a lot of bizarre fun side benefits from this that maybe only I care about, but I do care about them, and I want to mention that. So oceans could get much deeper. The Nether could be made a much more interesting place. It could be made deeper, taller, or both. The End could be made the first truly 3D dimension, in my opinion. But this is not even getting into the more exciting bits of this. Because consider this, the bottom layer of every existing Minecraft world is layer 0, or, I mean, you've got Bedrock, so you're at layer 1 or 2 on your Y coordinate. Consider that that's the bottom of every world right now, and you can have this kind of big flat layer of bedrock where there's diamonds above you and lava. This is what a world looks like right now. 64 blocks of, surface caves or whatever. Obviously, they're not dripstone caves, but you get the point. You go through 64 blocks of these caves, and then you get to the surface, and this is something that everyone assumes is just a given. It's an unfixable. Existing worlds can only have caves this deep, and I assume that's the route they're going to go because they don't want to mess with existing things. But here is an idea, right? Imagine if they did mess with existing worlds. Again, what if they did the exact opposite of the thing that seems smart to do? Because not messing with people's existing worlds is a great proposition for Minecraft, but what if they messed with people's worlds in a way that was workable? So imagine all of these chunks right now are the only chunks I've explored prior to 1.17. Then imagine this over here is a brand new chunk. I've never seen it before, and when I mine into it, the bedrock layer is no longer there. And this means that not only will I be able to explore new, this is how we know it'll work. You can explore new chunks and get down to below layer 1, layer 0. You can explore brand new caves that you get to -2, -3, etc. Do all the brand new exciting things. But what if, imagine this, right? Imagine if you could go back to your previously explored chunks and they would generate brand new terrain down there. So imagine just over here is where I've already explored. If I go past these chunks and then back, now I can start to explore under that layer of bedrock. So this is potentially a really dangerous thing, because imagine you're in the middle of the bedrock layer and you try to break your way out there and you're like, oh, there's bedrock above me. You know, that I can imagine that being a real problem. Maybe one of the gameplay reasons why not to do this, but imagine how much fun it would be to discover a whole new layer of caves secretly hiding underneath the bedrock. I mean, in survival, we've never been able to break this core bedrock. What if we found out it was kind of like a mystery that gets revealed in 1.17 the whole time there were caves under there, you know? To me, that would be exciting. I think that with the right world options, that they'll probably never do because of complexity, I would love to see the option to remove the existing bedrock in your world and just go straight down to those new caves. But I think overall, doing something in existing chunks would be really great, because otherwise there will always be this distinct difference between chunks generated before 1.17, which only go down to layer 0, and chunks generated after 1.17, which go down to layer -64. And maybe that's maybe at this point in Minecraft's history, that's a good thing, because everyone knows. You know, like, everyone will know what it is. No one's going to be like, wait, why does it only go down to layer 0? Unless we're decades from now talking. But I also just think that, like, having a way to fully convert without having to make a new world is something a lot of people would appreciate if, hypothetically, maybe they've been playing the same survival world, let's say hypothetically, for 8.5 years in a row, and that maybe they would find that interesting. But again, there's a lot of debates that come from this. The first one that always comes up is like, so the reason they don't want to do that is safe size. Here's the thing about Minecraft you might not know. Default chunks use very little memory, because all they have to do is save what blocks were meant to generate. It takes very little memory to load a new chunk, because it knows how the chunk should generate. Instead, what takes a lot of file size. In fact, can we prove this? Does Minecraft Java display file sizes? It doesn't. But this area right here is using a lot more file size than if I just left the chunks how they were. Even though I'm removing blocks, by altering the chunk's natural state, I'm actually adding to the file size. Only a few bytes here and here, but like obviously when I mine a lot, it adds a lot of kilobytes. Just adding new terrain doesn't add a lot to your world size if it's not altering data. In the same way, this update is adding a whole lot of new height, right? I mean, we're going all the way up to 320 now. So teleport me to 320 and then, okay, 17, there we go. So now we can go all the way up to these highly heights of up here. This terrain also, because it's just air by default, it's not going to add any file size to your world, or minimal file size, I should say, until you decide to place blocks here. So I'm going to build myself a nice little, I don't know, stone block. Do you like it? It's really nice. And then I'm going to put a dripstone block on the side, and then there's going to be an acacia fence. Yeah, this is good what I've done here. I'm very impressed with myself. I hope you are too. But the point is yeah, file size concerns is something a lot of people are addressing. I think I said something, I made a very bold claim. Like, this is one of those few changes that is universally positive. And some people said, well, not for my file size. I only have a Switch which has, 32 gigabytes of memory, and it already, it's off storage, and it's already used so much. Here's the thing, if you don't want the world height increase, just pretend it's not there. If you don't want the new world height decrease, load up a bunch of chunks in your existing world, you won't have to deal with it. But I will say that Minecraft is generally very good at optimizing for storage space. This is this is one of the changes they made very early on. Minecraft worlds can be infinite. Think about that. They are infinitely sized, and yet they fit within just a few megabytes. And that's because until you explore a chunk, it takes up 0 storage. And after you explore a chunk, it takes up very little. It's only when you start playing around with those chunks and moving blocks, etc., that things start to happen. And that's why you have to play a really long time to get a world that even measures 100 megabytes, despite the fact that they are infinite, random, beautiful messes. And speaking of infinite, random, beautiful messes, there is so much about this that I would love to dive into in the future. Let me know, are you excited for the increased height limit, or is this just a me thing? Because again, I feel like I'm a crazy man just yelling at people on the street, but I want to be I want to go onto the street, hold up a sign saying, have you heard? The new update, it's increasing the height limit by 128 blocks, but for the first time, it's evenly split between the height and the floor, and it's so massive for caves. This is the cave update I've wanted and dreamed of. Minecraft have outdone themselves. And I really have to reiterate on that one here. Sometimes we have to say, yeah, they kind of made a mistake here. But then we also have to hold our hands up and say, they made a non-mistake here. They made a good here. Minecraft made a good, and we should all be proud of them. And speaking of things we should be proud of, everyone who has subscribed to this channel, I'm proud of you for helping me out in some small way. And if you do so, of course, we know based on the statistics that most house buyers happen to people who aren't subscribed to the VerticalCat YouTube channel. So, just gonna present that fact and leave it out there. And also, I'm gonna mention that I'm streaming on Saturday, as you all know. Wait, is this my... No, okay, this isn't me. As you all know, I'm streaming on Saturday. I'm going to be trying to beat Minecraft in Peaceful without going to the Nether. It's going to be one of the first times it's been done on Bedrock. It's going to be a crazy whole thing. And it's going to take 11 hours of just... 11 hours of basically walking to the end portal. It's going to be a bizarre stream, but I'm really looking forward to it. So I'll see you tonight for my last stream before that. And I'll see you on Saturday when we make some Minecraft history or something like that. My phone's ringing right now. Do you like the noise it makes? I like the noise it makes.